Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and today we are talking about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Japan and how he addressed Japanese Indians or Indian origin Japanese, how he connected and shared his vision for the new Bharat. Where is it that he's taking relationship of India and Japan with his Japanese counterpart, and what has been the main gain, so to say, from the Quad meeting, which was also held in Japan? I have the pleasure of talking about Indo-Japan ties and the new mindset. First, here is Mayur by Dalal. Mayur,
Namaste.
welcome, sir. Namaste. I also have Dr. Dheeraj Kaul with me. Dr. Dheeraj, welcome. And as all three of us are focusing on Prime Minister's visit to Japan, Dheeraj, talk to me about your general impression about the world that we are in and the kind of backdrop in which this meeting between India and Japan acquires multiple additional significance.
Namaskar, Vyasbhai. Thank you for having me on the show. As all of us know, world is going through an unprecedented time right now. As you know, I was very attached with the COVID story. We had millions of lives lost, and not to talk about tens of millions of people who are recovering from long COVID, which is a real challenge. During the COVID times, most of the economies shut down, production shut down, supply chain disruption was there. And the worst thing which we could have happened after COVID is a war, which we had in our hand, which is going on in Ukraine. That is further strained the supply chain disruption. And to make the matters worse, China, for some random reason, has non-scientific reason, has adopted zero COVID policy. China, being the factory of the world, has shut down the shutters of around 10 to 15% of its factory, which has further worsened the supply chain, put strain. So we have three factors going on: supply chain disruption because the opening came up, but we could not match the demand from COVID. Secondly, China zero COVID policy, shutting down its factories. Third is high energy cost because of Ukraine war. And fourth is supply chain disruption. So the world is in a very dicey, delicate situation right now. It would not be premature to say if things go the same way, we may be entering something which we call recession, which I don't want to sound alarming, but this is a very cross roads. This is a very critical time. And currently, if you know, the government of US is increasing interest rates so that the inflation can come down, and inflation has gone up. The fifth challenge in the world is food supply. As per United Nations, around 230 million people will be starving because of this war, what is going on. And 70 countries are following the trajectory of what happened in Sri Lanka, are going to go bankrupt if things go the same way. Big countries like including Turkey, Egypt, have highest inflation rate of 60%. So we are in a very, very dicey situation.
So, Dheeraj, yeah. No, I should have not underestimated your understanding of the worldview and all these multiple factors. And now I'm requesting Mayurbhai to, in the backdrop of what Dheeraj just explained, but staying away from it for a while and look at India and Japan in the light of historical as well as cultural relationship and the basic idea with which Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji is meeting his counterpart in Japan.
So, Dheeraj and Ashok Bhai, thank you for having me. First and foremost, Japan since 1990 has experienced deflationary cycle. And this is the only country in the world in the modern times that has withstood the worst of the circumstances with calmness of Buddhism, with composure and patriotism, and with can-do attitude to make a difference. So what Shinzo Abe, the prior prime minister, and Modi, when he was the chief minister of Gujarat, and when he became a prime minister, struck the emotional chord together is country first. That was the first chord that they struck. Second, the best practices. So Japan is known for its bullet train. He signed up the accord with Japan for setting up bullet train in India. Second was the nuclear energy. Japan is one of the most energy self-reliant country in the world, bar none. So he adopted the best practices that Japan had adopted 32 years to put India on a fast track on several of the self-reliance initiatives. This particular is the second visit after he became prime minister, and essentially he is setting the stage of exponential growth through harmony, synergy, and collaboration.
So, looking at harmony, synergy, and collaboration, uh, Dr. Dheeraj, looking at Japan's concern at the moment, which may or may not be addressed with its relationship with India. From the point of view of defense, Japan is developing new understanding with USA. It is also investing more in making itself self-reliant as far as its defense needs are concerned. And as you mentioned earlier, the approach of China is threatening multiple nations in different ways, and Japan also feels threatened. Do you think Indo-Japan ties also will be addressing this concern of Japan, or are they going to have some sort of memorandum of understanding where India, in some way, is addressing this concern of Japan?
Thank you. That's a very smart question. So, just recapping again, as you know, the world's top three economies: US is 20 trillion, China 14.7, Japan is number three, 5.6, India comes sixth at 2.66 trillion. But at the same time, Japan is worried now big time on its security. So is a lot of European nations. That's why the GDP, the ratio of defense expenditure to GDP is rising in all the European countries as we speak. Germany is leading that way, and Japan is also increasing. The good thing of Japan is they are very advanced when it comes to electronics, laser warfare, very high tech technologies they have, including space. And India being one of the strongest country when it comes to army might and power. It's true the technology of Indian army may not be at par as of US, but we are growing at a very fast pace, getting technologies from Israel and America and Japan. The ties between Japan and India are growing exponentially as we speak. You'll be very happy to know the largest investor of startups in India is Japan. Number two was China. That place has been removed now. China's investment is being tapped. So India and Japan are natural partners. This is the country where Buddha was born. Took Buddhism there. Matter of fact, if you watch the latest media, matter of fact, Japan Tokyo Times, a big paper has been published just on Modi ji. 40,000 very aspiring Indians live in Japan, most of them in Tokyo. They welcomed Modi ji's visit is the center stage visit, and four leaders of Quad. If you talk about them, the longest experience of somebody leading a country is Modi ji currently. Although the longest exposure in politics is Joe Biden. The Australian PM is 1 day old. Recently, he's been inaugurated. Japan is also relatively new, but every country sees India as a beacon of democracy, which can protect them against the expanding visions and expanding you can say wishes of China. So India is like a rock pillar there to stand together with Japan. And you'll be very happy to know the top CEOs of the Japan have met Modi ji. They have promised to bring technology to India, not only to invest, but transfer of technology, because we have very high aspiring, hardworking youth who would love to develop alongside with their brothers in Japan. So I see this friendship as strengthening as we speak, and so goes with US. Technology transfer
Yeah.
is
So
something.
let me come back to you with US side, and staying with the meeting of Prime Minister Narendra Modi with CEOs of big companies in Japan, and Mayurbhai, looking at the promises which are raised when Prime Minister Narendra Modi addresses, whether it is the Indian diaspora or the business fraternity, while you hear Prime Minister Modi speaking in a foreign land to these potential investors, and his vision, the way he shares it, there is a lot of optimism. There is a lot of hope in his words. And then you look at what you have recently probably heard from Rahul Gandhi speaking again on a foreign land. and you also look at the concerns of internal security or disruptions in several cities, or the potential of some kind of unrest. Now, that goes with concerns of investors also. That uh, might be politics, that might be whatever, but looking at it in the big picture, how uh, confident you are that Prime Minister Narendra Modi in India, well, we talk about ease of doing business, that also involves having congenial and peaceful, orderly environment for the entrepreneurs to function. Do you see that as a potential concern somewhere hidden in the minds of these CEOs, and how confident you are that they'll take Prime Minister Narendra Modi's words with a sense of conviction?
So, Ashok, by Japan for the last 60 years follows a concept called quality circles. One of the biggest challenges that American CEOs always had collaborating with Japan was they take too long a time to decide on any major issues. Correct? So India has already a history established, whether it is Honda, Toyota, Suzuki in the automobile sector, healthcare sector, insurance sector. They have tied since World War II for the last almost 40 years on several sectors with India and Indians. Until 2014, they had the Congress ministry that they were working with. But in the 8 years, that the amount of confidence that every one of the CEOs, including SoftBank, the largest investor in India, who has committed to invest $42 billion just for Indian startups as a capital. Secondly, Suzuki CEO who met Modi today, Sony met today, and everyone has committed to Modi that what his vision is and seamless way of doing business with outsiders from Indian perspective. They have had first-hand experience, and that's why everyone wants to commit to make India as the largest trading partner.
So India, of course, is also presenting itself as a potential destination for investors, whether they are from Japan or from any other country. But Dr. Dheeraj, the concern that I raised earlier and overall business oriented ground level available for entrepreneurs in India also varies from state to state. So in certain states they have more business friendly environment. In certain states they don't have that sort of friendly environment, in which we have seen resulting into certain companies deciding to shift from, say, West Bengal to Gujarat or things like that. So the concern that I think we as India lovers have is a unified uh, image of India in terms of a potential destination for investors. And there might be complications involved because of the way this federal state structure is emerging, especially in the past few years, where you have a kind of tug of war like situation between, sometimes between some states, and there are not very harmonious exchange of statements between chief ministers and maybe central minister or prime minister himself. So just a quick uh, thought that you have on this particular side, especially when you are looking at India outside in, like sitting in Japan.
I think the point you have raised is very important. It's the federal structure. You are questioning the federal state structure. I think we are seeing more discrepancies and more arguments between the state governments and the federal government. But mind you, the central government has acted very, very wisely. Matter of fact, Modi ji is acting like a brand ambassador of India himself right now in this visit. And when he's inviting people to invest in India, cash is one of the most scarcity in this current economy. But he's inviting people to invest in India regardless of the state. But all these companies do their due diligence. That's why you're seeing states like Uttar Pradesh, which is coming up to be one of the largest investor attracting states because of its resources and potential and electricity access and roadmaps. Not to talk about Gadkari ji, who has created the infra. Tamil Nadu is another state. Andhra Pradesh is another state. Unfortunately, Maharashtra, the business is leaving. But we have few other states, including Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, which is picking up. Bihar, unfortunately, it's not right now there. But I see your point. But you have to understand, since 2014, that conflict between state and center, to be honest to you, is more streamlined. And that's why people are recognizing Modi ji as the unified leader of pan India, regardless of which culture, religion, ethnicity, state you come from. You ask any Indian, he feels very proud to be Indian and have a leader like Modi ji.
Absolutely. And Mayurbhai, another side where he connects with the people in a way that you start flowing with what he's saying. So if you have heard his speech in Japan, he starts lifting up people's spirit with an emotional connect. And then gradually he brings them to the focus of how India is doing well and where they can inspire others to chalo India, judo with India, etc. And uh, somehow people chant Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai in his presence with more enthusiasm than we might have heard in recent times. And he also mentioned that earlier khadi used to be like a fashion statement of some of the limited politicians, but now it has global reach and it is becoming popular. So, uh, segue from Indo-Japan towards leadership style of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the context of his visit to Japan.
So the most beautiful thing you have experienced in the last 8 years is leading with heart, connecting with heart, and collaborating with heart, which is what Narendra Bhai brought to the table in every single relationship. He speaks the language the way others understand. He doesn't create complexities of message, but he simplifies it to the level. He is the most humble and selfless leader world has seen because he doesn't take any ownership or the credit for anything that he has done. He says it's all 130 crore people of India who has inspired him, who has facilitated this process and who believed in him. Now it is his responsibility to carry out the all the marching orders that is given to him. Second thing is when you see the level of self-esteem being not Hindu, but being Bharatiya and bringing all of the Bharatiya Sanskriti to the world. And he talked today even what Swami Vivekananda felt when he went to Japan several years ago and said that if he gave a guiding light to all of the Bharatiyas at that time, and now I have the opportunity to bring it back to Bharatiyas again. Now think of it. Every one of the spiritual places, religious places, connectivity with over 2,000 dialects being spoken in India, and everyone feel right from the peon all the way to the entrepreneurs being understood. Everyone understands the challenges India has been through in the last 8 years, but everyone is appreciating the genuine concerns, efforts, and transparency that Narendra Bhai has mandated every one of his team member in the cabinet to provide to everybody. What he has done during the Ukraine war to bring back 12,000 students in presence of his cabinet members, making them not stakeholders but value creators. Where every Indian citizen felt it was not just Modi who did it, it was Dr. V.K. Singh or whether it was Singhania. You just name everyone. They're all part of the process that has been created and all inclusive, much more collaborative. So everybody's shortcomings, inefficiencies, deficiencies, structural defects are not being even looked at. What is looked at is what are the wonderful things collectively we can do together. And I think that is what recently during the trip to Germany and Denmark that happened, Norway it happened, even here it is happening. People are not enthusiastic about, people are feeling truly the genuine authenticity that is coming from a servant leader that they haven't seen in a probably last 50 years.
So that being the case, this being the fifth visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi as Prime Minister after 2014, And whenever Prime Minister visits any foreign country, Dheerajji, people start evaluating based on what did we gain out of it. So, um, bilateral relationship between India and Japan, what do you think is the take home outcome for both nations? And let's look at it from India's point of view. I would also count a sense of credibility, and sometimes these relationships are helpful, as you have seen in the case of Ukraine, when we needed to take care of Indians who were stuck there, to take them out. So these relationship building exercise are not useless if we don't have any immediate tangible gain. But in this case, what do you see where it is heading, Dheerajji?
I think if you look at the direction we are going with Japan, Japan, a country of 124 million people, India, 1.4 billion people, our civilizations actually today, a lot of their gods, including Saraswati, renamed at different names, have been worshipped there. Buddha is there. Our people to people connect is there. I feel the future lies in both countries taking the world to a very different level. As all of us know, people in Japan are very disciplined. They are very advanced when it comes to healthcare, remote monitoring, genomics. US is another hub. But I feel if India and Japan mutually grow together, it would lead world to a world 2.0 along with US on its side. And we would be probably getting rid of many diseases, including better cure for cancer, curative treatments, genomic treatments, gene sequencing, gene editing, space mining. I think the entire world would open in a different diaspora. But unfortunately, these bad dark clouds of war are covering the entire sentiment in the world, which I hope resolves very soon. But it's no question on the credibility of Modi ji, because you rightly said, you can fool one person, maybe 100 people, but billions of people you can't fool. There has to be a genuinity in him, and he connects to every single person, regardless of which language they speak. It's people to people connect is tremendous, and there is an authenticity and truthness in his statements and words, and we are blessed to have somebody like that. Young people like me aspire and learn from a leader. What is a leader? He motivates people to do the best they can to improve the world. So we are all blessed to have him. And to be honest to you, I see God give him very long life and strength, and he lives healthy. I think sky is the limit of growth opportunities for Indians, Americans, and Japanese people altogether.
Consciously or unconsciously, you have used two expressions exactly as Prime Minister Narendra Modi has used in his recent visit in Japan. When you said limitless, I am reminded that he said there are limitless possibilities of partnership, of cooperation between India and Japan. And you earlier said India and Japan are natural partners. And here is a tweet where Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India and Japan are natural partners. Japan has played an important role in India's development journey, and of course, other areas of strength and respect. And he also talked about the spirituality that runs in both nations, and cultural ties and whatnot. And let's few minutes look at Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meeting with President Biden in Japan. Mayurbhai, do you see the declaration from America of supporting India for infrastructure development to the tune of $4 billion also is significant?
It is just the drop in the bucket, Ashok Bhai. Today, Biden, who is unfortunately victimized because of the entitlement attitude that majority of the Americans have, versus how Modi has empowered Indians through the power of synergy, incorporating the spiritual accountability, one family at a time. He feels that $4 billion is just the beginning. He doesn't want to be left behind. How quickly Japan have jumped in very early stages in 2015 to help India as a country, and several other countries who have understood the sincere voice in Modi who said, make in India, be Indian, buy Indian situation. So it is a true self-reliance. It is no longer technology transfer that Biden is talking about. It is collaboration, which has never been talked about any prior American president with Indian Prime Minister. Okay. And this is where, if you just see the breakthrough, Japan and India are going to excel in corporate social responsibility and community building for a sustainable period of time. India and America are going to create the scale that India has possibility to do. America has achieved those. And collectively between the three, along with the help of Australia in the Quad partnership, you're going to see Modi playing the role of engine where all the three collective collaborators are going to benefit exponentially because of Modi's conviction and strong belief in each one of these three countries who are becoming partners with India.
Absolutely. So I have this PM discussing opportunities in digital learning, fintech, infra, and logistic network with the head of Japanese IT giant NEC Corporation. So, Dheeraj, help us understand the significance of fintech, and is it going to bring India to a new level of its technological excellence with close cooperation with Japanese?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely. Because you have to understand, although India is not 100% literate yet, and we are moving in the right direction, improving the quality of education in government infra, which is the most commonly accessible to people in remote areas. But people in India are very tech savvy. They know how to operate WhatsApp. I mean, I'm connected when I go online. We have 20, 30,000 people at one time in Twitter spaces when I speak. So it's very much connected. A rickshawala has his own view, and it's a very vibrant democracy, which is the beauty of India. But you are right. When you talk about fintech area, once you connect fintech and make it seamless, sort of thing what crypto was aiming to do, and currently I'm not gonna go in that direction to talk. But
Okay, 30 in 30 seconds, if you explain what is fintech.
so when you connect finance and make it very easily accessible with technology, you bypass the banks and you bypass the access system, and each and every person has an access to his dollar. Minimum amount is lost in the transactions. I would call it a 2.0 fintech, although that's not where it is right now. And you can reinvest those assets. It's a long conversation, but one point I wanted to add. I'm sorry I didn't focus on of the Quad Australia, because don't forget, Australia is one of the richest nation when it comes to minerals and resources, which we would need
Yeah,
for world.
Dheeraj, I'm afraid this has been such a learning experience listening to both of you. But since we are almost running out of time, I would request Mayurbhai to share the sum of what additional enthusiasm you have from this visit of Prime Minister Modi to Japan.
So, Dheeraj, how old are you?
Oh, I'm 42.
Okay, so your generation in India accounts for 650 million people.
Correct.
Modi has connected and become live wire with every one of the 650 million youth as we speak. So when you talk about future of the world is in youth, the more clearer youth are, the more committed youth are, and the more compassionate youth are, that country is blessed to be the best spiritual nation, the best emotional nation, and the best intellectual nation anybody out there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very well put, Mayurbhai Dalal and Dr. Dheeraj Kaul. Thank you very much for joining us and
Thank
enlightening
you.
us on
Thank you so much.
various aspects emerging from this visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Japan. And till we meet again, thanking them and thanking all of you. This is Ashok Vyas.